Hey guys, welcome back to Auxhart Gardening. I am here with Scott Head of Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. He is one of the earliest supporters of me and my channel, and I am visiting in Texas to see my grandparents, and he happens to live close by, so it's really cool. I get to come and visit him, and I'm going to do sort of a short interview and ask him some really interesting questions about him and his garden and kind of how he got started in this space, because you've been pretty successful lately.
Yeah, it's been this little garden has been the whole. I mean, this is it. What you see is what you get.
Yeah.
But I've been gardening here since I don't know, the late '90s. My garden used to be where the camera is.
Yeah.
But I had trees over there, and, you know. So, but my channel started growing 3 or 4 years ago, and it was all of a sudden just took off, and I have no explanation for it. It's like YouTube featured me one day on I think they call it an up and coming YouTuber.
Oh yeah.
And I got like 20,000 views in an hour on that particular video, and after
That's
that,
insane.
people started subscribing more. And,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's I mean you know YouTube, and it's hard work, and it's
Yeah.
it takes a lot of effort to make a video, and it can be frustrating when the views don't happen. And when I found your channel, I thought, well, I liked what you were doing. I liked the fact that you were willing to share. You made a mistake, and I thought that's an honest gardener. And so I thought, well, I'm going to just recommend people to that channel. And I've been following you ever since. So
Yeah.
I like what you're doing.
I really appreciated the support. So how did you get started gardening in the first place?
When I was a kid, I always wanted to have a garden, and my dad wouldn't let me because he was a lawn guy, right? He wanted to have the lawn.
Oh yeah.
But finally, he broke down and gave me a little patch of really bad clay on the side of the house where there was no sun, and I planted some lettuce in the middle of summer. But it grew, and so ever since that time, I thought, you know, one day I'm going to have my own place, and I'll be able to make a garden. So when we moved in here, I learned about raised bed gardening, Mel Bartholomew, the square foot method.
Oh yeah.
And so I thought, I can do this. So right over there, I put a couple of beds and grew some tomatoes and some beans, and, you know, the typical first garden thing. I had some success, and, but that was what hooked me into it. I always wanted to, not necessarily, it wasn't really for me to grow my own food. I like quaint things, right? I like a garden that's quaint. So I put a little brick pathway in, just grew stuff. It wasn't food production back then. But then I had to move my garden to this side of the yard. And so we made these beds, and I thought, you know, I'm going to do some YouTube stuff because, I don't know, in the days of the dinosaurs when everybody had a blog,
Yeah.
I blogged about all my hobbies. Like my wife says, hobbies are my hobbies. But gardening was one of those. So I thought, I'm going to do a blog. I did do a blog, but I thought I'm going to do YouTube also.
Yeah.
So I just like to try to teach. And
Yeah, that was going to be my next question.
yeah.
How you got into YouTube.
Well, it's this, I like to teach. I like to share. And in the past, it was almost like a narcissistic thing. You know, I'm like, look at me, I know stuff.
Yeah.
But I never did know stuff well enough to be the top guy, the go-to guy. Like on YouTube, you check with certain people who they know their stuff, right? And I've never been that person. So when I finally came to YouTube, I thought, you know, I'm gonna teach, but I'm gonna try to be honest and say I'm only teaching within my lane. You know, the things I know. I don't know about permaculture and all that. I just know backyard raised bed gardening.
Yeah.
And so I think that narrow focus is what has helped my channel stay at least consistent. I like to think that if you come to my channel, you know what you're going to get. And if I'm out there talking about food forests, you shouldn't listen to me, right? Because I don't have one.
Yeah.
But if you want to know how to grow stuff in a raised bed in the subtropics, then I try to keep it narrow. So why did I do YouTube? combination. Why do I do YouTube now, though, is different.
Okay.
Because now I make money.
Yeah.
And so that actually does impact my gardening. Because, for example, I have all these weeds in the garden right now that I need to get them out. Mm-hmm. But the way to get those out most successfully would take months of solarizing the soil and tarping it and all that. That means I can't grow something in it. That means I'm not making my YouTube revenue. Not that it's all about the money, but
it helps.
But it helps, and if you take a break or if you take some time off, everything dips, and YouTube doesn't push you as much there. So consistency, it's actually the money part has been a good driver for me to be motivated and have to actually do the work. Otherwise, I probably would have taken the whole season.
What's your favorite part of gardening?
Harvesting fall. My favorite part of gardening is walking through a fall garden and its full beauty.
Yeah.
Fall garden. The carrots that blow in the wind, they're like hair, it's like the sea. And then cabbages are so beautiful when they open up and they start heading up. All the colors of the fall garden. I like root crops. I like the process of pulling a carrot out. It's awesome.
So satisfying.
I mean, the spring garden's beautiful and everything, but man, there's just nothing like walking through the garden with a cup of coffee in the morning with a good fall garden. So that's what I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I'm hoping I get to have my own this year because I've never been able to grow cabbages.
You mentioned that in your last tour, I think.
Yeah.
And I think your cabbages, they look kind of leggy, but they'll be fine. I had some leggy cabbages, and they just kind of cover up that stem. And yeah, I think they'll be fine. Man, cabbages are actually really fun to grow. I don't really like them too much. Actually, I do, but they get old after you've got 20 cabbages.
And they all come in at once, so you're eating cabbage all the time.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, winter gardens, fall gardens, that's the best part.
So what would you say is the most interesting thing about growing in such a warm place? Because a lot of the people who watch like my channel and maybe who watch yours are growing in the rest of the United States, which is going to be cooler than here.
I think the interesting part is that I can grow tropicals if I want to. Like Malabar spinach grows year-round, and so you can have spinach-like greens even at the height of summer. You can push the zone and grow things like moringa and some of those superfoods that don't grow well where it's cooler. Mm-hmm. Yeah, around here you can grow some tropicals. I think that's interesting. I've not really tried a lot of tropicals, but I know that it can be done. What I'm trying to do is do the opposite. I'm trying to grow a cooler weather pawpaw tree.
Well, you're also growing apples too.
Yes, yeah. The apple trees are actually they're supposed to be tropical tolerant, and we selected the varieties for that reason. So yeah, Phoebe the garden dog. If you throw those to her, she will. She'd go off. So interesting, yeah. I don't know if that's very interesting.
You get to grow a lot of stuff that nobody else can really touch outside of having a whole greenhouse set up.
That's true. It does get cool here, but just for a short period of time. Mm-hmm. Like last year, the reason my fig trees looked so awful, we had that horrible freeze. Yeah. I thought everything was dead, but they survived. Almost all of them survived, but they were stunted and scarred, and so they don't look pretty anymore.
It's incredible though. Plants are so resilient.
It's crazy. I thought everything was dead. That thing was all the way down to the stump, and that's just growth in about 8 months. It's crazy. So I find it interesting that I can grow citrus too. That's
my grandparents had citrus too.
Yeah.
But they lost it in the freeze. All of it. It's coming back, but from below the graft. So. Whatever they're getting is not what they had.
Well, down by your grandparents is the largest collection of citrus in the world, in the state of Texas. That's privately owned, and the guy has an open house every December, and it's incredible. You buy all kinds of stuff you've never even heard of. But, if you're ever there in December, let me know, and I'll tell you who his name is. So
yeah, we'll have to do that. So, what are you most excited for in the upcoming year of gardening? You doing anything new?
I'm going to repeat what I did last year with my I grew tomatoes this year in an indoor cultivation practice where you do them up the vine and you lean them over and you trim them down. I'm trying to remember what that's called. Anyway, I'm going to repeat that this year, but I'm going to use a lot of weed cloth because I've got weed problems right now that I think were somewhat freeze related, though I don't have any evidence. I just have a hunch. So I'm gonna repeat that. I'm looking forward to that because it was incredible that how much it produced. I had tons and tons of tomatoes. I'm looking forward to next year the trees that I'm growing out here, and next year is when we start really pruning them. They're supposed to grow as tall as possible right now, but I'm looking forward to seeing how I can, if I can grow apples and get these trees to be not super tall, but fruitful. That's what I'm looking forward to most. Everything else is kind of standard, is the garden stuff. What I find is that I repeat the same things year after year, and I don't get very creative with the vegetables I grow. So perhaps this spring I should get creative with some things. But then the problem is I only have 3 beds.
Yeah, there's not a lot of space for that.
I'm not producing a lot of food, but if I want to produce food, I need to focus on maybe 3 or 4 crops max and just grow those.
It's such a trade-off.
But then again, the YouTube motivation is to grow lots of diverse things, but not a whole lot of it, but enough of it where you can learn how to grow it so you can teach it, because that's kind of what this garden is, more of a teaching garden than a food production garden. In fact, we don't even eat a lot out of the garden. Oh, yeah. I do, but the weird things like Malabar spinach, I'll eat that, but no one else in my family will touch it. So yeah, it's more of a teaching garden, and I'm looking forward to growing things in order to teach the techniques. So now I know, for example, the single string vining, I lost how to explain it, but that trellising method where you drop and lean your vine worked wonderfully.
It looked really cool.
It was fantastic, and it kept going. I took them out when the summer finally came, but they grew well into July, and for this area, that's incredible. So I'm going to repeat that, and I'll teach more about it because now I know how to do it. I know what I should have done better. Yeah.
I think teaching comes best from the people who have just learned how to do it, because you remember all the little pitfalls.
Yeah, I agree. I almost forgot how to grow cucumbers in the way that we did when we first grew cucumbers, and Sam helped me do hand pollination and how to prune them. I'm like, I don't really remember how to prune them, and I don't have the time to go watch the video again. So I just let them go. They still grew.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you see somebody who knows what they're doing and they can teach it well, man, that's the value of YouTube. I think you can learn anything on YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm going away from your question, but anyway.
Okay, I just have 2 more questions for you.
Okay.
And I'm asking these questions. I think it's cool. There's a podcast I listen to where they talk to people who are scientists in different areas, and they just love their subject. But at the end of every interview, she asks them, what is the very worst thing about your job or your subject, or the most frustrating thing? The most frustrating thing with the garden or gardening in general? Gardening, being a YouTuber who gardens, any of that. The worst thing is, I love the YouTube aspect of it. I love answering comments. I really like editing videos. I like the whole process of YouTube. So that's no big. The frustrating part of YouTube is when you can't figure out your analytics, but that's everybody's frustration. Yeah. For me, the frustration in the garden is the weeds and the heat. Yeah. Obviously, I'm not a fit. I'm overweight, right? And that
is one of the reasons that I come out and garden consistently is I need to exercise. Mm-hmm. But it also means the heat is it's hard to deal with, and so that's frustrating for me. Is when we have a long summer and a hot summer, it's just hard to work. So you have to come out in the evenings, or when the sun's low, and then the mosquitoes chew you up. Like right now, this is ideal. Yeah. This is my favorite garden.
It's very nice out.
But frustration comes with the weeds and the heat. The weeds especially, they're just
relentless.
I mean, if you just look away, there's going to be weeds growing up. And this year especially, it's been, I don't know what happened, but it's been super bad. That's frustrating. It's frustrating that we had to that our garden's not going already because we had to pull all those weeds, and we're still having to work to make sure we got them,
Yeah.
So.
And on the flip side of that, what is the very best thing about it all?
About gardening and YouTubing?
Yeah.
That's a hard question.
So many competing answers.
Well, I mean, I have to be honest. I love the money that comes from YouTube now. I didn't have it before, and I still love doing it, but to be honest, that was a surprise that my channel took off and went well. But it was a surprise that I embraced it, But I want to. At the same time, I want to keep the purity of gardening. I don't want people to look at my channel and say, "Oh, that guy's doing it for the money."
Yeah. Money is a nice side effect.
Though I am doing it for the money, I would do it without the money too.
Yeah.
And so the best part of all of it, I don't know. I think it's when you actually, about the time when your plants come up and you start to see fruit forming, and you see, okay, that's going to be success. Mm-hmm. And there's around here in the spring garden. So the spring garden is wonderful right before the fruit comes in because the pests haven't arrived yet.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So that's the best time. You're thinking, man, just maybe this year we'll skip the vine borers, maybe this year we'll miss the whatever pestilence is coming, and that's the best part. You come out and you're like, man, this is great. This is satisfying. And you can look at your work and just sit back and say, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like I can imagine in your new place, you could sit on your porch and just look out there and say,
yeah,
wow.
That's the best.
Yeah, that's the best. You can't beat it. Things like that are wonderful. I have a fig tree out front and it looks terrible this year because the fig tree blight, what do they call it, rust. It's fig tree rust. It swept through the whole neighborhood. Everybody's fig tree died, basically. But when it puts on new leaves after you've pruned it and it's beautiful, it's another one of those things. You're like, look at that tree.
Yeah, I did that.
Yeah, I know. And people are like, that's a beautiful tree. Is that your tree? What kind of tree is it? And you're just, it's satisfaction.
Yeah.
So I like all that. I like the whole thing.
Thank you so much for sitting down and letting me come look at your garden.
Yeah.
It's so interesting to be able to see this in person.
Well, I'm glad you came. I like when YouTubers get together and talk to each other, and I like when YouTubers help each other. And I will continue to support your channel and suggest it to my viewers. And yeah, it's nice to get to know you and actually meet you in person.
Yeah, for sure. You get a very different side of somebody when you are not on the other side of a camera.
That's true. Yeah. Well, I hope I'm. I don't know. I hope this all stays the same for you now that you've been here.
I mean, I'll be able to see it through a new lens, but okay. It'll be a good one.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, we both wish you happy gardening.